Hello, my little Luxxes. Welcome to another episode of Luxxxy Charms, and I am your host, cosplayer Charsie Luxxx. And of course, we are still on theme for clowning around. And for this episode, we are doing another ghost stories my father used to tell me. I believe this is episode 34 on my Charsie Luxxx YouTube channel, so another celebration and feat in the mix, and super proud of myself for as busy as I am that this has been quite the feat to get to here. So we will say cheers to that and to many more episodes to come, but cheers everyone. Oh, that's good. But thank you for joining me here on another Luxxxy Charms. And if you're new here, welcome to the channel. We're all just a bunch of weirdos here. And we are getting super excited for Halloween coming up here soon. And for this month, like I said at the beginning, this is the theme of clowning around. So for today's ghost story, this one is called The Lost Carnival. This dark tale begins with the introduction of two young couples who are out to hike the Appalachian Trail. And if anybody knows what the Appalachian Trail is, what it is one of the hardest trails that you can hike up in the Appalachian Mountains. And these couples, you had Lily and Tony and Peter and Jesse, who were out to embark on this hard trail. They loved going out into nature, they loved exploring, and they loved being just one with nature. And on this one, they decided they really wanted to challenge themselves. And the Appalachian Trails is not something for the faint of heart. Generally, they tell people stick to the trails because there's been a lot of people that have gone missing in the Appalachian Trails. And they were good at what they did. So they were very confident in what they were doing, and they weren't planning on venturing too far off the path or anything like that. In the Appalachian Trail, yes, there are certain stopping points. There are places in the trail where you can have campsites. There are even setups where you have sleeping areas where they do even have bathrooms. They're not like high-tech bathrooms or anything, but you still have places that are a little more convenient and comfortable than, let's say, having to go to the bathroom in the woods. Well, poor Lily needed to use the restroom, and they had things packed along just for emergency, just in case they didn't get to these stopping points. Jessie went along with her, just so she wasn't off by herself, and kind of the idea of what kind of wildlife could be lurking there, or just to have somebody for a lookout. So both the girls venture out together to go to the bathroom. Well, they get to an area that has a lot of shrubbery and kind of hidden, so both girls kind of go to the bathroom, and when they get done and they start heading back to get to where the guys are, because they were only a little ways off from the path, not too far so that they wouldn't get lost. All of a sudden the girls realized that they had been walking for quite a bit of time and they hadn't reached the trail. So Lily just kind of shouts out, "Hey, babe, can you hear us? Say something so that we can get back to the path. We seem to have gotten a little off of the path here." They don't hear anything. So after the girls didn't hear anything from Lily's boyfriend, Jessie decides to call out to her boyfriend. "Hey, Peter, are you out there? Are you close?" Still can't hear anything. Nobody's replying to him. Well, then that starts putting Jessie into a panic. She looks at Lily and she goes, "We must have got turned around. And Lily's like, that's really impossible, because she's like, I know the direction we went. She goes, we were only like 5 feet away from the path. She goes, we weren't that far into the forest. So Jessie just starts hollering, she starts screaming, she's belligerent at this point. She just went from 0 to 100, which unfortunately is just kind of the typical normal for Jessie. But with her screaming, the men could hear them. So they start yelling back, what's wrong? Where are you? But it sounds like they're far away, and it's quite a distance. Jessie starts yelling even more. Now that she can hear the guys, she starts yelling, hey, we're in here, we're lost, we got away from the path somehow. So the guys make their way to where the girls are. When they find them, they're looking at them and saying, hey. And of course, Peter right away wants to comfort his girlfriend, make sure that she's okay. And once she's finally calmed down, kind of even stops hyperventilating, that she got that worked up. And finally, Peter looks at her and he's like, how did you guys get so far away from the path? And finally Lily says, how far away were we? Tony looks at her and says, you guys were a good 100 yards in. Lily's like, how is that even possible? She's like, I don't even think we were walking that long when we realized that we somehow got off the path. And Tony just kind of shrugged his shoulders. He's like, I don't know, that it's just weird. But Tony had indicated, he's like, I know path is back this way. He's like, he looked at his compass, so they start heading and walking in that general direction again. Well, they're walking, and they're walking, and they're walking some more. And it dawns on them all that they still haven't come to the path. So Tony gets out his compass again, he's kind of looking at it, and he's just kind of got this weird look on his face. And he looks at him and he's like, guys, take a look at this. Hands the compass over to Lily, and the compass is just spinning. And it's just spinning around and around. And Lily's staring at it, and she's like, well, what does that mean? And Tony's like, I don't know, I've never seen that happen before. He's like, that's been a reliable compass for us for how many years? I've never seen it react like this before. Finally, Peter kind of looks at it as well, and he's like, well, maybe there's some kind of interference around here that's just messing with the magnetic field, that it's not pointing north anymore. So this starts making Jessie get worked up again. She's like, so we don't know where we are, we're lost in the middle of the Appalachian Mountains. And Peter quickly gets her attention, and he's like, look, don't panic, we just need to keep heading in the direction that we last knew was north, and keep heading in that direction. We will eventually make our way to the path. So they continue walking and walking and walking some more, and it dawns on them that it's getting to a point where they are lost, and they know they're lost. And Lily's worried herself, but at the same time, she's like, we're all together, we got plenty of supplies, and she also knows that she has that failsafe, that she has flares with her. So at night, if they just have to set up camp, and she knows that she can just set off some flares and that somebody can come and find them. So it's been about a good hour of walking at this point. But as they're walking, they start hearing this sound, and they can kind of hear it in the distance, something that you don't think that you would normally hear out in the middle of nowhere, especially out in the middle of the forest of the Appalachian Mountains. Lily and Tony and Peter and Jessie all kind of like look at each other when it dawns on them that they can hear music. And they're like, well, thank God, that means we're close to something. Maybe we're close to one of those rest areas. So immediately they start heading in the direction that they can hear the music. and it's getting louder and louder as they're going. So they're getting in good spirits, they're excited, and they keep walking. And all of a sudden, Lily stops and she's like, do you realize what kind of music that is? Like, I recognize that kind of music. And Tony looks at her and he's like, yeah. He's like, it kind of sounds like, and before he can finish his sentence, Lily says, carnival music. And they all just kind of looked at each other and they get this dumbfounded look on their face. And they're like, who would be playing carnival music out here? Well, they kind of shrug it off, just kind of thinking it's a funny thing. And they're like, well, who cares? We really just want to get back to civilization and get back to the path. So they continue towards this carnival music that they hear. And as they're moving along, they start seeing that there is an opening that is happening. And it's opening out into this meadow. And as they walk their way to the edge of the tree line and they look out, and now they're even more confused, even more baffled. Because standing before them, probably about a good football field away from them, is this giant circus tent. And it's the big, typical, old-style carnival tent that you can remember seeing at a circus show. It's the white and the red striped, big canvas, just giant tents. And it's just kind of looming over this meadow area. And it's just so bizarre looking, because it is. It's in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a forest. Instantly, Lily's like, this is weird. Why would a circus tent be out in the middle of here? And more than that, why does it sound like it's up and running? Because they can hear loud carnival music coming from this tent. But Jessie's just so excited. She's like, oh my god, who cares what it's doing out here? That somebody's out here. They obviously would know how to get back to the path, right? So Jessie just starts beelining it for the carnival. She's just kind of booking it like one of the fastest walks any of them have seen her do. That she's just so excited to get to this tent. Well, Peter's just following right behind her, but while they're heading towards this tent, Lily looks at her boyfriend Tony and voices her concern. She's like, I feel really odd about this. And he agreed with her. He's like, yeah, this is very odd, but he's like, let's just go ahead and go with our friends. And he's like, Jessie is right. They should know how to get back to the path. So they follow their friends, technically catch up with their friends as they come up to the front area of this tent. And oddly enough, there is a ticket booth right out front. And there is a gentleman in this ticket booth who is dressed like a clown. And as Lily is looking at this clown, she's thinking he's the creepiest thing she has ever seen. Like, he's got on white makeup that's just caked on his face, but she just could tell it and noticed. She's like, it feels like this makeup is like 10 years old and it's just been cracking and falling apart. And just all of his makeup is smudged and messy, and he had on the typical big red nose, and the red lipstick that was made for his clown smile was smeared and smudged, but he put this big grin on his face as he watched the four come up to his ticket booth, and he looks at them and he's like, are we here for the show? Are we here to see all the fun activities that we have inside of our great circus? And Jessie just kind of looks at him. She's like, well, we're actually here to see if we can make our way, if you could tell us how to make our way back to the path. And this seems to disappoint the clown. He gets this weird frown, and Lily and Tony both kind of immediately notice, and they don't know how, because he's got makeup on his face that was designed to look like a smile. But as soon as he gets this frown, the makeup on his face mimics his mood, And instantly he looks like a sad, very, very forlorn clown. And he's like, well, that's no fun, girl. You should be here for the circus. You will never see a circus as amazing as here. So that is very disappointing that you're not here to see the greatest show on earth right here in front of your eyes. And Jessie stops and she looks at the sad clown. She goes, I am so sorry, sir. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, she said. But she started to explain. She's like, we were hiking on the Appalachian Trail and we got off the path for a little bit and we got lost. We heard your wonderful, fun carnival music and just got excited because we thought you'd be able to help us so that we could get back to hiking on the trail. I didn't mean any offense to you. I didn't mean to hurt your feelings, sir. And he started to perk back up again and be a little more happy. And he said to him, he's like, well, sure, ma'am, I do know exactly where to get back on the path would be for you. But he said, can you do me one favor, one small favor, before I can tell you how to get back to the path? And Jessie gets this big grin on her face and she says, well, sure, sir. What can we do for you? And Lily is kind of tugging on Tony's shirt, kind of in the background, because she just feels kind of uneasy about this. It just seems so odd and out of place, and this clown is so odd and out of place. Well, the ticket master or the booth master clown looks at Jessie and the rest of the couples, and he looks at them all and he says, would you please, kind ladies and gents, all come join our great show here, and would you watch our carnival? And if you watch our carnival and if you enjoy yourselves, I will gladly tell you how to get back to the path. Hell, I will even walk you and take you back to the path, and then you can be on your way. But would you please watch our great circus here first? Well, Jessie's just all excited and happy. She goes, yeah, I would love to see your carnival, and if that's what the trade is, we will love to join your carnival. And he says, splendid, oh splendid girl, I'm so excited that you would want to see this show. And of course, Tony under his breath is kind of like, it's not like we have a choice. The ticket master says, well, it is $5 per ticket. And all of them are kind of staring like, and the guy says, I'm just kidding. He's like, since you guys came all the way out here, even if it was just by some freak chance of you getting lost, he goes, you are welcome here. Your money is no good here. We welcome you. So come on in. Come follow me. Come on in. Come see this great show. So the clown gets himself out of the ticket booth, and he's got the weirdest little walk. He's literally just kind of like shimmying his way as he makes his way into the tent, and Jessie just follows right along. And you kind of have Peter, who's, you could tell he's uneasy like Lily and Tony are, but he's gonna follow his girlfriend, who seems really eager to go into this carnival. And Lily and Tony slowly follow along as they're watching this little clown eagerly shuffling into this tent. So he takes them into the great room where you can see that the layout and the circus is all set up, and he points over to the bleachers and he's like, go ahead and take a seat. And he's like, please take a seat in the front row. Obviously, it's all here for you, and you are our special guests, and the show will shortly begin. So he goes and he shuffles his way back out again, and after he disappears, Lily and Tony kind of look at each other like, so what do we do? And Jessie's like, we go take a seat like he asked us to, sillies. And she goes over and plops right down in the front row where the guy had pointed out. And Peter kind of looks over at Tony and shrugs his shoulders like, I really don't know what to tell you, dude. So he makes his way and sits next to Jessie. And Lily just kind of lets out a sigh. And they go and they follow their friends, so Lily and Tony sit down beside them. No sooner have they sat down and the lights go off, but then a spotlight just as quickly comes down, and poof, out of nowhere, this guy just is there, and he is another clown. And Lily had noticed that his makeup was very similar to the ticket master. That it seemed like he'd put on this makeup and that it had been on for the past 10 years, and it just was kind of cakey looking, cracked, very messy. But the rest of him kind of seemed glitter and glam, but the outfit even seemed like it was old and worn and used. But it still was a spectacular looking ringleader suit. And with his big top hat on, and he tips it to the young couple in the front row, as we know, the only ones in the audience, and he says, "Welcome, welcome, come one, come all, step right up, join into the greatest circus you will ever see, the greatest show." What makes us more special than the rest is the fact that all your performers here, all the performances that you would normally see at any other carnival, is performed by all clowns. We do everything. We do the stunts, we do the tricks, we have the performances with the animals, we do all the tumbles and acrobatics. We are the clown show. And Jessie just starts clapping all excitedly. She's just so excited for this show. And she looks at Peter, she's like, "I love clowns so much, this is so cool." But the lights come off again, and then 2 side lights come, and you see 2 more clowns. This time you have 2 female performers, but they got on cat suits along with their clown makeup. And once again, Lily notices it's the same as the other clowns. They have their makeup on, but it doesn't look like it's been freshly applied from that day. It looks like it is old makeup. The same with their cat suits, their tight leotard-looking outfits. That they look stunning. They're beautiful outfits, but they look old. They look used. Look like they'd been on these performers for a very long time. Jessie seemed to be completely oblivious to it. In fact, Peter and Tony seemed to be in a trance, all looking at these female performers as they both made their way into the rings. And they danced and twirled and did cartwheels and were doing flips and tricks and all kinds of things as they danced this performance. And it just was this amazing, beautiful performance. And Lily, of course, could even admit she'd never seen anything like it before, that she didn't think that a person's body could bend in the way that these clowns were bending. It was very abnormal, and she didn't feel like, do these ladies even have bones, because of the way that they were bending and contorting. Well, they got done with their performance and everybody was clapping at that point. Even Lily was finally getting into it because she was just such a trance from the beauty of these dancers. When the lights went out again, blue lights came on, and the female performers were gone, and you had 5 gentlemen clowns, but these were the ones that seemed like they were the normal clown performers, where it was the typical clown suits, and they did the normal clown gags, and they were kind of doing performances like the Three Stooges, where they were kind of doing skits and tricks. When they started finishing their pranks, and it started turning into a magic show. While they were in the middle of their magic performance, where they were doing weird tricks where they would put someone in a box and do the abracadabra thing and open the box and it was empty, but then they would somehow make the performer reappear again over across the room out of like nowhere, out of thin air, and poof, they were somehow there. Granted, with tricks of lights and smoke and all kinds of cool things. The group is completely entranced watching this magic performance. Well, then 2 more clowns kind of walk into the performance, and they seem to be pushing this large contraption. and it was draped with this huge canvas tarp. You couldn't see what was underneath the tarp yet. The headmaster with his big top hat comes back in, and he's like, yes, yes, now for a big surprise for all of you, for one of our best tricks that we can do. And he says, Jemmy, come on out, come show them your special performance. And all the clowns start cheering and clapping, and they look to the couples and get them to start cheering and clapping along with them. All of a sudden you can start hearing these big footsteps, and boom, 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 heavy footsteps are walking into the crowd, and a light goes off on the one middle door, and you see this one clown kind of appear from the canvas, and he starts stepping into the ring with the rest of them and makes his way to be next to the contraption with the tarp. Well, he grabs onto the tarp and he pulls it down quickly, and there is a woman that is tied to this contraption, and what it is it's one of those spinning wheel looking things, and this woman is tied to this because at first they're all kind of like gasping, like, oh, this must be a part of the performance, right? But then it slowly starts to dawn on them that this woman has a gag in her mouth, and she's instantly in shock at the sight before her and starts yelling, but she's got this gag in her mouth, so all that comes out is, you know, the typical muffled noise when you can't call for help. And instantly the group starts realizing something's not right here, especially Lily, who felt like everything was odd to begin with. And the big guy starts making his way away from the woman, and the two who had wheeled out this contraption take that wheel and they go woof, and they start spinning this poor woman. And she's got that muffled sound as she's trying to scream as this thing starts spinning with her tied to it. Tony stands up on his feet, and the ringleader turns and points to him and says, we do not interrupt the performance. Sit back down. Well, Tony's just staring at him, and he's like, she doesn't seem like she wants to have what's happening right now. She sounds like she's scared. And the ringmaster says, it's all part of the act, sir. It's all part of the act. Nothing to be alarmed about. It's just something that we add for the element of surprise in the gag. And finally, Lily says, but I thought you said all your performers here, what made you guys special was the fact that you were all clowns. She's not dressed up like a clown. And the ringleader turns and looks at Lily. His makeup for the ringleader started mimicking his mood, and instantly he got this very cross look on his face, and Lily was instantly felt this awful chill down her spine, and she knew she didn't want to be there anymore. And the ringleader said, now, why did you have to go and say a silly thing like that, young lady? Out of nowhere, this ringleader peers a knife and chucks it at the young lady, and it just misses her head by a little bit, like by centimeters. And the girl lets out this muffled scream because she can't scream out, but she is really freaked out. And the ringleader turns and looks at Lily and says, darn, I was actually aiming for her head. Guess I need to brush up a little bit more. And all the clowns just start laughing at the top of their lungs, and instantly the group just turns white and they're petrified, and they all try to stand up and realize that they need to get out of there, but unfortunately all the performers are in their way of getting to the door. So right away they all begin to panic. And obviously, Jessie went from 0 to 100 in no time, and she's screaming at the top of her lungs. Chaos breaks out, and the group just starts trying to run. You got Lily and Tony who beeline it to the left, trying to make it towards the door where they had initially come into the performance in the first place. Jesse just takes off to the right. Well, Peter, seeing that his girlfriend had gone the other direction, wants to follow her and takes off with her. Well, the ringmaster is just laughing some more, and he's like, yes, my minions, please go after all these pathetic people. And he takes out another knife and he flings it at the girl, and this time it strikes her straight in the chest. And of course you can hear that gargled pain noise that she makes, and that makes Lily and Tony kind of stop in their tracks so that they can look at the woman, and it dawns on them that nobody went to go and help this poor thing. So Lily's natural reaction is to start running towards this poor woman to go and help her, and Tony is still just kind of trying to make out what just happened when all of a sudden he is jumped by two of the clowns, and he lets out this yelp. Well, Lily stops to look at her boyfriend because he hears him distraught and sees that these two clowns have him and are dragging him away. Well, Lily turns to go and try and help him, but when she starts making her way to run to her boyfriend, the big, gigantic Jimmy Clown starts making his way over to her, and she just kind of squeals and she starts running away from this Jimmy Clown. So Lily starts beelining it for that giant canvas door that Jimmy the Clown had originally come from and goes running toward this door. She unfortunately hears Tony screaming out in pain, and she stops again and realizes, what am I doing? I need to help my boyfriend, and turns to look and see what is happening. And unfortunately, she looks in time to see that these clowns, the ones that were the magic trick clowns, were turning her boyfriend into a pretzel, a living human pretzel, and was twisting and contorting his body. And those two female clowns had come in as well and were now laughing with the rest of the clowns as his bones were breaking, as they were twisting his arms and his legs and wrapping his body around, and he's just screaming in pain as he's still alive for this. And the one girl clown, the one that was in the pink leotard, just giggles and says, well, I guess he doesn't bend like we do. And Lily just screams out, and you just hear her start yelling, no! Well, that Jimmy Clown is making his way to her, not moving quickly because he's relishing in the fact that she is seeing them killing her boyfriend, and she watches as the life goes out in his eyes, but the last thing that he is able to do is he looks towards her and in his dying breath lets her know, run. So Lily turns and just books it through the door. Well, as she's going through this place, it just looks like a maze, this nightmare, and just she feels lost, but she's making her way through this thing, and this thing looks like a fun house, but obviously a very twisted fun house, maybe like what you would see a Tim Burton movie, but there are mirrors everywhere, there are weird contraptions, and Lily is just making her way through it. She just hears this laughter coming from any direction that she's at, and she just feels dizzy because she can just tell she's running in circles as she's trying to make her way through these hallways. Well, finally she starts hollering and seeing if anybody can come find her, and she starts yelling, help, help, is anybody out there? Help, somebody please help us. Well, that just makes those clowns laugh even more, and then they start mocking her and mimicking her. Help, help, somebody can help us. Oh, somebody can help us. And this just makes Lily angry, and she's like, stop it, just stop it, why are you doing this? And poof, somewhere out of nowhere, this ringmaster appears, and Lily just jumps back completely frightened from the fact that this guy came out of nowhere, and he just laughs at her and goes, well, we said this was the greatest show on earth. And Lily's like, how is this the greatest show on earth? And goes, well, we didn't say it was the greatest show on earth for you, dear. It's the greatest show on earth for us. And he starts laughing as the other clowns start gathering around him. And some of these clowns start heading towards Lily. And Lily starts backing herself up, and she finds herself that she's by one of these crazy mirrors. And she's just starts screaming for help again. And next thing she knows, something grabs onto her and just yanks her. Then all of a sudden she realizes that it was Peter, that Peter had grabbed onto her. And he's like, come on. And finally this jolts her back to reality again, and she notices that he had somehow come through this trap door that was mysteriously right next to her. Whoa! Luckily. And she follows her friends, and they find themselves down in a tunnel. And so they start running through this strange maze that is continued from this strange clown carnival that they had happened upon. And Jessie just starts going, what is this nightmare? What is this place? And Lily just goes, I don't know, but we need to get the fuck out of here. So they just continue running, and this thing just seems like the world's worst funhouse, just a nightmare. Well, they can hear those clowns coming up behind them, and they're just laughing at the top of their lungs. All of a sudden it dawns on Peter, and he's like, oh no! And they're looking, and Lily can see in front of them that there's this dead end. And Lily just shakes her head, and she's like, no, this can't be it. There's got to be another trapdoor or something. So she just starts scrambling around. She's looking at all over the place, looking through the mirrors, trying just any contraption and seeing if something moves. She goes, there's got to be a trapdoor, just like the last one that you had found. And Jessie just starts screaming and panicking because she could just hear those clowns. And they're getting closer and closer as they're coming down this tunnel. And Lily just is scrambling. And Peter's just trying to calm Jessie down, but he's also trying to see if he can find something he can use for a weapon. And he finds this funny shaped bat, and he picks it up, and he gets it ready so that he can start swinging at these clowns. And they finally made their way to him, and they're slowly acting like a wall as they're kind of walking together towards the group. And Jessie just crawls into a corner and just puts herself in the fetal position, and she's rocking back and forth going, no, 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 this can't be happening, this can't be happening. And you have Peter, who, as soon as the clowns make their way to him, he swings his bat at them and clocks one of the clowns in the face. And of course, this makes Peter go, yeah! Well, he notices as he hits this clown, its face kind of dents in. And it turns and it looks at him, and it just kind of through this weird dented face just starts laughing with this weird gargled giggle. And Peter just is looking at this grotesque thing in front of him. He doesn't know what this thing is, and there's this weird blue goo that's just coming out of his face. So Peter takes that bat again and just smashes it as hard as he can into this thing's face again. And finally, it dents his face in so much that this clown falls down. Well, the ringleader looks at Peter and says, well, that wasn't very nice, young man. And Lily screams at the ringmaster, and it wasn't nice when you killed my boyfriend, you fucking freak. And the ringleader turns and looks at her, and he said, well, my dear, you're the one that came to our show. And Lily said, we didn't want to be here. And this makes the ringleader very upset. And he's like, if you would come here and if you had paid for a ticket, you would have been just fine, my dear. And Peter goes, somehow I don't believe that at all. This just makes the ringmaster laugh at Peter even more. And he says, it really doesn't matter what you think or want. And Peter goes to swing his bat at the ringmaster, but Jimmy the clown interrupts his swing and grabs the bat. Jimmy crushes that bat and it just shatters. And you just see wooden splinters and pieces go everywhere. And Peter just kind of stares at the broken bat in front of him. And then Jimmy the clown grabs onto his face. And you just hear poor Peter screaming in so much pain as his head is being crushed by this gigantic, awful evil clown. And this just causes poor Jessie to scream out in horrific sadness and sorrow as she's just so distraught at the sight in front of her. And Lily is just freaking out. She doesn't know what to do, and she's just scrambling around on the wall, still trying to see if she can find a way out. And she yells at Jessie, Jessie, get up. You need to help me. We need to find a way out of here. And Jessie's just sitting there crying, and now she's just rocking back and forth, and she's just going, this isn't real, this isn't real, this isn't real, this can't be real. And as Peter dies, and Jimmy just tosses his limp body to the ground as if it was just a rag doll, and all the clowns laugh and just start continuing to move their way towards the girls as they are blocked off at this dead end. As the clowns get upon them and get closer and closer, Lily all of a sudden realizes that the one mirror that she is holding on to, that she can feel it jiggle, and she just grabs it and just pulls with everything that she's got. The mirror, it actually opens to a tunnel, and she can see it. And she yells to Jessie, Jessie, follow me. But she can already see that these clowns are making their way in, and you have one of them that's trying to grab onto Lily, and she just beelines it and books it into this tunnel. And she just starts running as fast as she can, and she's just crying. She can hear Jessie just start screaming at the top of her lungs. Lily feels all the guilt in the world, but she's just so scared and she doesn't know what to do, and she's just running. She's just running for her life to get away. Well, she finally makes it to a spot in the tunnel where she notices there's a ladder, and she goes to this ladder, and she can tell that it leads up to what looks like another trap door. So she goes and she makes her way up this ladder, and she tries the door, wanting to make sure it wasn't locked or anything, and she can feel that it pops open. So she kind of like creaks it up a little, and she just kind of like peers up it. She's looking around and trying to see anything, and she notices that it went up into Carnival tent again. So, but she kind of peers, she doesn't see anything. So she opens the door, and she crawls up out of this hole, and she keeps looking around. She's thinking, maybe that's why those clowns didn't follow me, because they knew where this tunnel, where the trapdoor led. When she realizes she can't make her way towards the front door, knowing that she was most likely going to be stopped by the ticket booth master, she realized she needed to come up with some kind of a plan to get out of there. And she remembered that in Tony's bag there would be a pocket knife, and unfortunately there, lying on the ground, was her dead boyfriend Tony, and he was in a pool of his own blood. But Lily knew she needed to get to that bag, and she slowly made her way to Tony. And of course, every fiber of her being wanted to believe that he would be okay. But looking at his twisted, mangled body, she knew there was nothing that she could do about it. She made her way to his bag, which the bag had been torn off of his back and tossed to the side, started going through it. And she found his trusty pocket knife in the bag, and she slowly made her way through it a little bit more, and she found another item that she thought would be of use to her, and she stuck it in her shorts. And she took the pocket knife and opened it up, and she slowly made her way to the canvas of this carnival tent, and she took the pocket knife and she started slicing it down. And then she started peeling open the canvas, and she could see the meadow out in the tree line. So after she had a big enough hole, she then decided that she was going to push herself through it. Well, as she was making her way out of this canvas, she felt something grab onto her and yanked her back. Well, in her shock, she took that pocket knife and she just started stabbing the thing that had grabbed onto her. Well, sure enough, it was one of these clowns. As soon as she started stabbing this thing, it let her go, and it was stumbling backwards, and this one actually was in pain, but it still had that same gross goo that was coming out of its wounds. But Lily wasn't gonna stop stabbing this thing, and she just kept stabbing until this thing stopped and just fell and crumpled to the ground. And there were other clowns around her, and they were coming towards her. Finally, she had taken the item that she had stuck on her shorts and pulled it out, and she aimed it towards the ringmaster. Here she had found that flare in her boyfriend's bag, and she now was aiming it at the ringmaster. And she even slowly started looking at all the other clowns with this thing, and she's like, don't make your way any further, do not come any closer to me, or I swear I will use this thing on you, and it will not be pleasant for you. And this just makes the clowns all start laughing, and they think it's hilarious. And Lily's like, I don't find this situation funny or humorous at all. You're all just a bunch of fucking freaks that need to die. She took that flare and she aimed it right at that ringmaster again, and she just set it off. And she watched as that flare made its way and just bulleted right into his eyeball. And as his whole body started flaring up with this flare, and he's just screaming out in agony. You had clowns where half of them make their way trying to help this ringmaster as he's set on fire, and then you have the other half that start making their way towards Lily, and she just bolts it right out of that hole from the canvas, just running as fast as she can towards that tree line. And she can feel everything in her body's just hurting, and her breathing is hard and heavy, but she is just running. She doesn't care. She knows she's got to get away. And she can hear that awful, terrible laughing behind her. But as she keeps running, that laughter just grows fainter and fainter and fainter. And she finally is to the point where she's just been running so long, she can't run anymore. So she slows her pace, but she doesn't stop. She just keeps walking. She wants to find that path. She wants to find humanity, just anybody that can help her. So after what felt like an eternity to her, and as the sun was almost to the part where it would be sunset and that she would not be able to see anymore, and she finally stumbles out onto this path. And she just collapses to the path, and she's just in disbelief. And as she's on the ground, all of a sudden she hears this voice from beside her. Are you okay? Are you okay? What's wrong? And she looks up, and there's a young couple that have been walking on the path, and they're both staring at her with this confused look on their face, and she must have looked like a huge mess. And she had that weird blue goo blood, whatever it was, splattered all over her. She looked dirty and messy. Her clothes were torn. And she looked at the couple and she's like, my friends are dead. My friends are dead. And of course, had to explain her story of the crazy carnival and everything. The young couple and her go on their way until they can finally find help. And of course, when she's back at the ranger station, or whenever she had talked to the police and that, had to tell them her story. And of course, everybody thought that she must have been on some kind of a shroom trip or something with her friends, because what she was talking about just couldn't be possible. She even kept telling them, she goes, test me, I am drug-free. And of course, then they all start thinking that she has some kind of a problem or a mental problem, that she must be psychotic in some way. But she kept pushing and she kept pushing and telling them, please, please, please find my friends. Please find that carnival. You need to stop these people. You need to stop those evil clowns. Of course, them knowing that something horribly had happened and that something had happened to her friends and her boyfriend, of course, go out to look for this carnival. And when they came back to talk to Lily and let her know what they had found, well, we found that meadow where you had claimed this carnival was, and we couldn't find any traces of your friends. We couldn't find your boyfriend. There was nothing that would lead us to know where they were. But we did find a bunch of crop circles in the middle of that meadow. So, my little Luxxes, what did you think of that little tale? That one was also not one that came from my father. this show is kind of stemming in all kinds of directions, that I'm sticking to keeping my ghost stories and everything, but that is one that I have created myself, and kind of on the spot. So I hope you enjoyed my little ghost story about an evil carnival with evil alien clowns. I mean, it goes on theme with our killer clowns, doesn't it? But I want to thank you for joining me here on another Luxxxy Charms. And if you would like to continue to follow me on my adventures here in Luxxxy Charms, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And if you would like to follow me more on my other social medias, you can follow me on my Twitter for Charsie Luxxx with 3 X's. You can also follow me on my Instagram for Charsie87. You can also follow me on my other YouTube channel with my friend DC called Little Channel of Horrors. And, as always, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your afternoon, the rest of your evening, the rest of your night, whatever time of the day it is. I hope you have a good one. Bye! We thought you'd be able to help us so that we could get back to hiking on the trail. Please be seated, get comfortable, and the show will soar. And Peter's trying to struggle and fighting with him to get that bat pulled away from him.